Hello, everybody. We are here at the series Ordinary People Living Extraordinary Lives. And with us today is Dr. Layne Linebaugh. She's doctor, author, and recovery coach. And I have known Layne for, I think it's been about almost 9 years now. I met her when we moved back to the Tahoe area and worked with her for a couple of years. And she has been a big inspiration in my life. And about a year ago, when I was just, if you've listened to my story at all in the past, I was in a really dark, hard place about a year ago. And I was laying on the bathroom floor crying one night. My son was sick. My husband was sick. It'd been 3 months of this. And I said, this is enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And it was literally like 2 days later, I get a phone call from Layne, and she says, do you want to co-teach a class about living within the rhythm of seasons in the spring? And I said, yes. And that has changed the trajectory of my life and has totally lit my fire and my passion. And the reason that I am here with you guys today and doing what I'm doing. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear Layne's story and her stepping into her most extraordinary life. So without further ado, Layne.
Hi. Well, thank you. Thank you. You know, I always think it just goes both ways. And the inspiration is mutual, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think we've done a lot for each other over the last several years, but definitely the last year we've reconnected and it's been a pretty epic year.
Yeah, it totally has. It's definitely last year no, I guess it's not last year, the year before. Oh yeah, no, it was last year in May, because we'd done our thing, and this is how it came about when I said, no way will my life in 2020 May look the same as 2019 May, and it's not going to.
And it's not. Yes.
It's not. No, it's not going to look the same.
It isn't, and that's what's happened in the last year. You know, we get so in our heads too about, oh, we're not doing enough, and then you look back, I mean, a month, let alone a year, and you're like, wow, a lot has happened.
A lot.
So much.
So much.
I would love for you to share your story, though. You know, when I first met you 9 years ago, your life looked much different than it does now. And you have been through a lot in the last several years and have had the courage and the bravery and done the deep work to completely shift your life. And now you just, you radiate your unique gifts and your inner genius. And so I'd love for you just to tell people a little bit about what your life looked like then and what was your catalyst to where you're at now.
Wow. Okay, so there's layers of it. You know, it's funny. I don't know if anybody out there, it's this weird little book. It's actually kind of a cool book called The Day of the Birthday, and they interviewed all these people that had the same birthday. Anyway, the theme of September 23 is the day of the breakthrough. So I feel like that's my life a lot. It's like a breakthrough and then a breakthrough and then a breakthrough. I'm always like, people, I'm sure my friends go, okay. Right? Another one. Yeah. So there's been a lot, but the cliff notes, and not to minimize at all, is I spent over 4 decades mired and stalled out in eating disorders, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, the gamut, and all of the lovely stuff that comes along with that. So financial troubles and relationship troubles and health struggles, of course, obviously with eating disorders and the stuff that the poisons putting into the body. Somehow I got a degree in chiropractic.
Through that, during that time.
Through all of that, and opened a practice and ran a practice. Part of that, I think, is because I'm a binge type personality, or in the past, and so I did have months and years of clarity, and always during the week. So anyway, So in 2013, after doing decades of this, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. We hear it. It sounds like kind of a cliche statement, but it really, really was true. I said, I cannot do this one more day.
Was there a moment or anything that happened during that? Like what was that catalyst that just said kind of woke you up to being like, I'm done? Was there anything specific?
Well, there was a lot. It's like it all came like this. Right? My relationship was on the rocks with somebody who I adored.
Mm-hmm.
And then my practice, this is always my funny joke about it, was that I had downsized my practice and moved in to rent just a room from a colleague. So I completely moved out of the office that you and I were in together.
Mm-hmm.
And about a month after I did all of that, I thought, what I really need to do is not drink. All this other stuff is directly related to, because I'm a hot mess.
Well, the surface is easier to clean up than the deep stuff.
Right. So it just all, because I was just really, really was so hurting and in so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
So you can laugh about it now, make light, and humor is fun. But it was a very, very painful time. And I got to say that painful time didn't really stop after I made the decision to stop the drinking and all the antics, because
and that's a misconception, right?
it's
It's like, oh, I get rid of the alcohol and everything's fine.
right.
But what is the alcohol covering up or whatever?
Everything.
Food, alcohol, TV addiction, all of it.
All of it. So while yes, it was better, it was not great. I did not go the traditional route. I ended up going to 12-step after about 3 months of sobriety, and I found some great friends. But in the end, and I won't really talk about that much, but in the end, that it didn't really work for me.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of worked, and I got a lot of great friends, and I have nothing bad to say about that. It just wasn't the path that worked for me, because 3.5 years into sobriety, I found myself sitting on the couch, and I'm overweight. My body's in pain. I'm now smoking cigarettes, and had fallen all the way back into old weird stuff with food.
Well, I think you talked about it a lot too, is addiction transfer, right? So
Yeah.
you're not doing the deeper work. You're just like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that, but I'll try that out for a little bit.
Right. And even though I had tons of tools, and I was able to have more and more clarity all of the time, and I was cleaning up my finances, but I still didn't know about what my emotions meant. I had no idea what was going on with my body.
Mm-hmm.
And that, for somebody who has struggled with body image and those sort of things, is its own special kind of hell.
Mm.
So I was sitting there, and I just thought, there has got to be more.
Mm-hmm.
There's just got to be a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm the person who always goes and searches. And I found a program through another series of really cool events that led me right to exactly what I was looking for. Because I was thinking, well, I could do coaching, like life coaching. And I thought, it doesn't include the body piece. I knew whatever I was going to do had to include movement and the body, because I'm a chiropractor. Right? It's so important.
Yeah.
And I thought, so coaching doesn't include the body piece. Yoga teacher, I was like, nah, I don't know. It's like, it just didn't seem quite, nothing against yoga. Brilliant practices. So I found a training, a 6-month deep work program that combined the two, coaching and restorative yoga. And within 3 months, because of my background with business and everything, I had already opened up a new business while I was in that training, because she taught us the language of the body, the emotional messages, and thought work, how your neurology works. Well, that was a refresher course.
Yeah.
And then so I always like to say the whole thing is wrapped up in the soul voice. And that changed everything. It changed everything for me. I finally knew what my emotions were saying and the messages in them, and I finally could understand what was going on with my body. And I took the long way, because I don't believe there's really an entire system that has all the pieces
Yeah.
now, except for probably mine, because I put it all together. But it took the long way, because then I started looking for all the pieces.
Yeah. Collecting them.
I started collecting them.
Well, and I think that's a good point, is there's not there's not one thing that fits everybody. Everybody doesn't fit into one box. And we're such dynamic beings, and we have to assess and meet somebody where they're at in all those different too. And a lot of times these different programs just hit one or the other. And I think I've had that too, where you're kind of like, well, this sounds good and this sounds good. I'm a chronic dabbler for sure. So you dabble in everything, but then to be able to get to that deeper part, it's transformative.
It is. It's transformative. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that, because, and I'm sure you've heard this from your husband. It's just like chiropractic. There's over 200 techniques in chiropractic. They all work. They just don't all work for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Chiropractic is such an umbrella term. And I think all medicine is like that.
Yeah.
And for me, shamanism has been something that's really helped, but for somebody else, it might not be that. Or acupuncture is a great tool, but these are all tools. And where you're at is where you resonate, and what will heal you. There's not one answer for
No.
any individual person. I think we do look at that as like, what's the quick fix, especially in this day and age where it's like, here, take a pill, take a pill, take a pill. What's the one thing I could do? And it's just doing the deep work.
Well,
In whatever capacity.
I listened to a little thing from Dr. Joe Dispenza this
Oh, I
morning,
love him. Yeah.
and he said now it's down to 3 to 6 second attention span, and we're distracted
Yeah.
because of all the technology, if we're not really on top of ourselves.
Yes.
Just being aware of that.
Well, we're constantly stimulated too.
Constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I've noticed that with my kids, and you go to a fireworks show, and if you remember being at a fireworks show, even when we were younger too, it's like this amazing thing. And now our kids are so stimulated. They're like, oh, that's pretty. Okay, what's next? And you're like, but
like, wait a minute.
like a 15, 20-minute fireworks show is too long.
Wow.
And it's kind of crazy.
Kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, where are you at?
So now, well, funny you should ask, because I thought about this. I thought, oh, what a great example. I'm actually at my mother's house.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I am able to be present enough in my life to be at my mother's house, I'm helping her with my stepdad, who has Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
And this would not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this wouldn't have happened 7 years ago. It wouldn't have happened 3 years ago. It probably wouldn't even happen 2 years ago. It might have happened. It would not have happened with the grace and the skill and the inquiry that I've been able to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, both
and the presence, the true presence.
True presence to say, here is my intention to come and give my mom a break. Mm-hmm. And also to put another pair of eyes into the situation, and then let's see what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the work of diving into what's going on in my body, it has its own language. Learning about the messages and emotions, doing a spring renewal program with you and living with the seasons, tuning into what that means as each season comes around. I mean, I could kind of feel it this year, since spring feels like it's early, and I felt that tightening and the resistant kind of energy that we had learned about last year. And okay, so that learning about that, and then constantly just being aware, and not in I've got to be perfect and fix everything sort of manner, but just this awareness, vigilance of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's the next right step?
Mm-hmm. And being able to assess that, you probably wouldn't have been able to do that.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no, are you kidding? So that's where I'm at physically, but it's also where I'm at just wherever I'm at
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, I am human. I am susceptible to the human condition just like the rest of you. I get frustrated, and that's probably my thing that
That's
comes
your go-to. Yeah.
first for the most part, because I'm a wood personality.
Yeah.
And so that'll come first. But I get frustrated. I get sad. I get, down. And what I've learned, this was a great one this week, was then you practice more.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That has been a huge thing, this last year, or just being that observer too, and consciously acknowledging where you're at and having those tools and those resources and those habits and those go-tos to shift that when it needs to shift if you're stuck in that space. And I think it's easy to get stuck in that space, or we get stuck in anger, we get stuck in frustration when, all emotion is good emotion if it's healthy expression of that emotion. And that's something I think we almost resist frustration or anger sometimes, because it has gotten out of control and subconscious too. But there is healthy anger, and there's healthy frustration. And
It's
we
all
need,
a message.
yes, and listening to that, right?
Right.
And I think that's something you've taught me with the emotions and all of that, is this language of the body.
Mm.
and how we express, we could be up here going and going and going, but if we just check in, and you always say, what do you always say? That the body speaks very slowly.
Yeah.
And you go back to that attention span, we're like, okay, come on, where's the answer? Where's the answer?
Yeah.
Instead of just sitting with yourself. And sometimes that's really uncomfortable. And I know for you too, and for me years ago, sitting with yourself. That's why we self-medicate, right? We don't want to sit with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. This living an extraordinary life is, I would say, 90% about being uncomfortable.
Yes. I was just reading this article last night about how humankind has gotten too comfortable.
Yeah.
And it was a really fascinating article, but we've pulled out those lawn chairs, we've made ourselves comfortable, and we've decided not to move or to progress, when you think about it, all of our basic human needs are pretty easy.
Yeah.
We're lucky for that. Food is easy to come by, shelter is easy to come by. For most of us, we're really privileged to have that without thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And so even that being said, but depression, anxiety, addiction has skyrocketed.
Yep.
But if we go back to that, then it's pretty cool, because we have the time to actually do that deep, uncomfortable work, because we're not out in the field searching for food. We're not hunting. We're not looking for shelter. We have all that. So it's a pretty cool time to be like, okay, let's look at the bigger picture.
Yes. There's a fantastic talk. I cannot think of her name right now, but I'll send it to you so you can put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Or references for people. And she talks about that. She says that we are now, for the most part, especially in Western states, and very so comfortable that the last frontier is ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have the time to study ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of research going on. And then, as you said, if we can just say, all right, I'm going to be uncomfortable and sit with myself.
Yeah.
We get to self-study, and it's pretty powerful.
Hugely powerful.
Yeah.
And it's this time I think we can really step in and live a really extraordinary life in whatever capacity that work looks like for each individual.
Yeah.
But it is getting uncomfortable, and it is you know, our subconscious wants to say, go back to the lawn chair, go back to the lawn chair. You made that spot really cozy over there. Why would you want to do that? Why are you asking big questions?
Right? I always think of that movie Wall-E.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right?
When they're in the ship and
Yep.
they're all in electronic chairs and way overweight.
Yeah, not doing, yeah. I always think of that when the subject comes up.
But it's time, and the energy of 2020 is that time of transformation and true exploration into ourselves, I think, and really to take action on that.
Yes.
So if you were to encourage somebody to live their most extraordinary life, what are 3 things you would tell them?
Wow. Okay. I actually just put some of these in my new webinar.
Oh.
Okay, so sidebar for those of you listening, I have a business now where I help people with addiction, eating disorders, binge eating, and I do some advertising, and I send people to a webinar to see it. So I've been working on this new webinar, and imagine, you know, space and time, being at my mom's. It was around the distractions of her home, and it really was able to come through. So that is the number one thing. And you hear it, and this is so simple that people want to skip it. And it's pause. I call it the power of pause. And it can be a 10-minute meditation. There's hundreds of thousands of them out there. It's a 5-minute stop to sit. It can be even a 5-minute to do jumping jacks. Or I love qigong because it's Eastern movement meditation. But pause, because you've got to slow down. So that is my number one, and it's the first thing I teach all of my students. Is it's an essential, if you like to say non-negotiable. Either way you like to say it. It has to happen.
That deep check-in too. We're so distracted that we don't check in with ourselves.
We're so distracted.
Pausing for a moment. And like you were saying, you know, that whole the body speaks slowly. We won't listen. We can't hear it if we're distracted.
Nope.
Hear that. Yeah.
And then, so again, and none of these things, you guys, are really, they're easy. They're simple, but they're not necessarily easy. However, if you want an extraordinary life, and that doesn't have to mean you're going to the moon or you're speaking on the stage. It can be a mom and
a feeling more than an action external. It's internal.
It's internal. It's internal. So you can go help your parents when they need them, or your kids or whatever, right? So the second thing I would say is to take full and deep responsibility, accountability, and ownership. And nobody really wants to do this either. It is not easy to be in integrity and tell the truth.
No. The
way you can do that, though, is back to the pause.
Personal responsibility is lacking these days.
It is. It is. And that deep reflection again of, I love that, the ability to respond. That's the responsibility. So, and again, it all comes back to that slowing down enough to say, what is my part in this? What is my next right step? What am I committed to? Who do I love this one. Who do I have to be?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions.
That's one of my favorite questions. Who do I have to be? Not how.
Yeah.
Who?
Who am I, and who do I have to be? Yeah.
Who I have to be. Yeah. And so that's probably my third then, is ask really great questions.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't learn about this until probably June of last year, July, somewhere in there, that I'm asking the wrong question when I
Uh-huh.
say why this and how this and what, instead of if you want to ask a why question, you ask, why is everything always working out for me,
Yeah.
right? But you ask better questions.
The quality of your questions. Yeah.
Quality of your questions.
And what, like when you said that too, what's the trajectory of your question? Is that question helping me along my path to where I want to be? Or is that question reflecting on where I don't want to be? And that's a huge thing, is clarity of where is it, who is it, that
Yeah.
where am I going?
Where am I going?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta know.
Yeah.
So if anybody's out there was traumatized by goals like I was, they dream. What are you dreaming of? So you have to know where you're going, so you can ask the question of every day. Every day, what am I committed to?
Yes. And that clarity, it seems like such a simple thing, right? It seems like, oh, I kind of know. But then when you really pause and you sit down and think about it and you go to write it down too, I think that writing of your goals is so important, because a lot of clarity comes out. You are committing to yourself when you put it on paper. And having that clarity is, I cannot say enough about that, because you have generalizations of ideas, but then when you get very clear on what it is you want, like to the color and the taste and the sound of what that looks like and feels like, then that whole asking good questions, you're like, yes, no, and you can really get through the muck.
You become very congruent.
Yeah.
You become congruent with who you are and who you have to be to get there. And does this, I have a great client who always says, is this getting my boat closer to shore?
That's
okay,
a great
so
analogy.
if you have, let's just say you want to get a degree, we'll just say that, okay? And you have to study for the degree. Is going out drinking going to get you closer to your degree? I can tell you from experience.
It's going to create some wind. That's going to blow you further from shore.
You may get the degree, but it is going to be painful.
Yeah.
Right? So having the pause, which I did not know how to do. All those, for so many years, it was just on the wheel of trying to
reactive instead of
active. Yeah.
In that action momentum, you're in that reactive. You're a firefighter, constantly putting fires out.
Constantly. So when you get that clarity of the pause, of the breathe, of the breath, and then you say, okay, what am I committed to?
Yeah.
Is it congruent? Is this next step congruent with what I say I want?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can ask a lot of really good questions, because okay, this is in line, but where am I going? Okay, what are the steps I need to take? And it's much better to ask those high quality questions than looking back to be like, oh, why does this always happen to me?
Right.
Yeah.
Because studies have shown, now we're getting, that those thoughts, all those synapses in your brain, they're all energy. We are all energy. Everything's energy. And it's like this bundle of energy that if you're thinking, why me, or why does this always happen to me, you're creating more of
that same energy. Yeah.
So don't ask that question.
Yeah. Well, and I always think about when I was skiing when I think I was like 10 years old, and it was a really stormy day, and we're up on this ridge, and I'm with my sister and her friend was like, it's this crazy, like, you have to cross the ridge just right, and down is a bunch of rocks. So she points down and says, don't fall down there. So immediately I'm like, oh my God, don't fall, don't fall, don't fall. And I can't help but look at where I don't want to go. And of course, I fall straight down there. Luckily, by miracle, I ended up like stretched across this rocky crevasse with my ski tips on one end and stretched on the other side. So luckily, I didn't get hurt, but it's such a good representation of if you're pointing and you're saying, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there, you're going to go there. Whereas if you
You're
say,
going there.
at that over there, we just need to get right to that spot, and that's where we reach our goal, then you get to that spot. You're focused on where you want to go.
Right. And who do you have to be to get there?
And who do you have?
Strength, courage,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yep.
focus,
Yep.
intention. I'm committed.
Yeah.
All
Skill.
the things.
Mm-hmm.
That is a
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that story.
It is. It's just always like, we always, it's so easy to focus on what we don't want too. It's like, okay, what do you want your life to look like? Well, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want this. I don't want to be in debt. Where you start to look at what is it you do want, and all of a sudden you're like, haven't thought about that.
Right. Right.
I think that clarity piece is just huge and skipped over.
It's, yeah. And by the way, just so you know, you guys, one of the reasons that this stuff isn't easy is because it's been conditioned out of us.
Mm.
Okay. We, as now especially, and not blame, we get to choose, right? And the right use of technology is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It is conditioned out of us from the time that we are young, that you're not good enough, not worthy, not focused enough, not smart enough, not, don't have the right shape and size. And it goes for men too. All of and it's just conditioned, and it's driven into us day after day after day after day after day.
Mm-hmm.
So when you realize that, you're like, oh, you can actually be onto that.
Yeah.
And that's why I say do more. When you're feeling bad and down and low, do more of your commitment exercise. Who do I need? And it's not a gaslighting or spiritual whitewashing at all, because I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to acknowledge where we are, how we feel, and then say, okay, now I can choose to what different.
Yeah. And it's a muscle. And the more you use it, the easier it becomes, and the easier you recognize when you're in that state and how to shift yourself out quicker too. Whereas at first it sucks.
Whew, that can be weeks and months.
Yeah,
Now
years.
it's down to a couple hours.
Yeah, exactly. And it is, it's just that muscle that you have to use, and that recognition and that pause to know exactly where you're at any given moment too. It's that conscious mindset.
Yes. Yeah. Back to pause.
Back to pause. Yes.
Pause.
The power of pause.
It is the I'm trying not to use words that denote violence and weaponry, and it's always got to be a fight.
Yes.
Right? So it's the secret power.
And, I was talking to one of my great, amazing teachers not too long ago, and I was like, you got to push through that hard stuff. And she's like, actually, how about you just allow yourself to be pulled through it? And I was like, oh, that sounds so much better than pushing and doing the hard work. And yes, it's hard, but allow yourself to be pulled. Ask for help. Use your resources. Use the people around you. And it can be a lot less effort if you're conscious in it. And I thought that was such a really beautiful thing, because we're always talking about pushing through, and that sounds exhausting. Where one thing I've learned this last year is if you have that driving force and you are aligned with your most, unique gifts and all of that work doesn't feel like work, because I was never a night person. But I have 2 kids and my days are busy. And so the only time I ever had to work on our program and the programs that I've done since then is at night, like from 9 to 11 at night. And I had so much energy and the enthusiasm for it, because it was that aligned feeling, like it's not work. I'm being pulled through this because it creates energy. When you're aligned with your unique gifts or your inner genius or your passion or whatever it is you want to call it, it creates that momentum and that energy to allow you to be pulled through it. That's something that I've really experienced this last year. That beautiful gift.
That gift of purpose.
Purpose. Yeah.
Gift of purpose. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody, oh, I don't have, because I come across this a lot working with people with addictions and eating disorders. That
Mm-hmm.
stuff is dream stealers. People have been beat down, and they've been living with this sort of thing and feeling of failure and shame and guilt for so long that by the time I talk to them, they don't know how to dream.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what is my purpose? I ask that a lot. You know, what do you want? What do you dream? I usually have to help them.
Yeah. And
So
that's a great point, because you always see people, well, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what my purpose is.
yeah.
And that's okay to not know. Just knowing that you don't know, what are the next steps? So what do you do for people when they're in
So
that?
usually I help them two ways. If they're already with me and working with me, then your purpose is this, all of us, our purpose is actually to expand.
Yes.
Our purpose is to expand and to grow and to help move the world along.
Yes.
Yes. So that's really everybody's purpose.
Yeah. And that is such a good point, Layne. Sorry, go ahead. I don't want to
That's
interrupt
okay.
you.
Yeah. Keep that thought.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then as we've been talking, because we don't want to confuse anybody, you definitely need to have something concrete. So I'll usually take them back to what did you dream of when you were a kid or a teenager?
Mm-hmm.
Because we knew a lot then.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I always wanted to travel to this place. Okay. And then I'll help them. And then we bring it to even, well, where would you go when you get to Italy?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, would you go to Cinque Terre, or would you go to Provence, or, you know, where would you go?
Yeah.
And then is there a certain restaurant that you would like to? So we bring it from this to this,
Mm-hmm.
30,000 foot view down into, so that they go, oh, that's right. I've forgotten all about that,
Yes.
because it was stolen.
Mm-hmm. So long ago too. And that simplicity, that's Chinese medicine. That's the yin and the yang. That's living in the rhythm with nature. And that simplicity, people are always, well, what's the basis of Chinese medicine? And it's balance and simplicity. And I think we have that conditioning from so many years and so many voices in our head from other people and ourselves, that we lose that simplicity. Like, I'm supposed to be more, I'm supposed to have more, I'm supposed to, I should have, and it starts to go like this. When you take that and consolidate it back down and be like, the simplest form is that we're supposed to expand ourselves first. And then that reverberates through everyone else. And you find yourself there. You find the who. You focus on that. And I think there's been this misinterpretation of ego a little bit, that focusing on yourself means you're egotistical, where it's deeper than that. It's this, when you know exactly who you are and you expand into that, you automatically help those around you, your children, your parents, whoever it is, feels that, and it gives them permission to do the same thing. And that is pretty incredible too. When we lose that purpose, I think that's one thing I see so much, is like, well, I just don't know. I don't know. I don't have any passion. I don't have a purpose. I don't know. And I think it's just feeling lost. Mm-hmm. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So you wrote a book.
Oh, I did. Yes. I wrote a book called I'm Sober, Why Is Life Still Hard? Keys to Your Unique Journey. Mm-hmm. And that, of course, came out of the experience that I had of 3.5 years sober, of like, what the heck?
Yeah, I thought this was going to fix everything.
It's supposed to be way better by now. and then finding the keys that I've talked about earlier.
Yeah. Oh, perfect.
So it's a little manual. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
To read, and you can get it on Amazon.
Well, send me the link, and we'll put it in the comments also.
Okay.
And then your program now, it's an 8-week program?
It is, whew,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. It's transformational, not informational. And so it is 8 weeks of modules that
Mhm.
people keep forever.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's video, it's text, they get to keep it forever. So that alone is amazing, but they also get one-to-one time with me, and they get group calls every week, plus a group on Facebook, a private group on Facebook. There's ongoing support
Yeah.
after that.
What's it called?
And it's called Finding Freedom and Flow, even when life is hard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And that's really helping people out of that kind of distraction, addiction mentality to be free
Yeah. Eating
of that
disorders.
distraction.
Addiction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting to the deeper part.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it is transformational. I watch people. It still blows my mind. As great as I know that it is,
Yeah.
people stop binge eating in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, they stop emotional eating anywhere from 2 to 7 weeks. They become connected to purpose. They learn to pause.
Mhm.
All the things that we've talked about.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And I always have a joke. I just say, and you thought it was a program about substances.
Yeah.
Because we stopped talking about it.
Tell them what they want, give them what they need, right?
Right. Yeah. So that's all our secrets. Shh.
Yeah. Well, people have an idea of what they have an expectation, right, of what will work, when really in anything that we do, it's the deeper work that's going to move the needle for you in your own self, your relationships, your career, your finances. It's that deeper work, because everything outside is a reflection of the inside.
The inside. Correct.
Everything starts with thought, and everything starts with a decision. And that decision is what makes your external world the way it is.
Yeah.
And one more question. We've kind of talked about it throughout this whole thing, but just to put it in a tiny little nutshell for people too, what is your definition of an extraordinary life?
Ooh, I'm pausing. Wow. We have talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ability to be present enough to reflect on what's working and what's not working. It's the ability to, I love it, be disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Will Smith says that. Not discipline as you're in trouble, but as self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And once you discover, go for that purpose that also will unfold. It's like you said, it will start to pull you,
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, oh, I didn't really realize that was something that was on my horizon.
Yes, the magic of it.
The magic of it. Okay, what do you want me to do next?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And being okay with the unknown.
And being okay with the unknown and saying, all right, clearly being led towards something, I'll say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me today. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and so many brilliant insights. This was so fun. We're going to have to do it again.
Absolutely. I'm down.
All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your time with your mother and your stepfather, and we'll chat soon, Layne.
Yes, thank you so
Okay.
much. And thank you out there, everybody. I'm sure we'll put contact info and all that too.
Yes, well, in the comments, once this is live, we'll put the link to Layne's book and her webinar and all the goodies that we've got for you all the little gems. There were some good gems
Yes,
here
yes.
today. So
Thank you for being amazing and extraordinary yourself. I
thank
appreciate
you.
you so much.
All right, Layne, have a great day.